Office team. My name is Abigail Page. I'm the Product Development Manager. So first, before I kick off, just on behalf of EuroGeographics Head Office, thank you everybody for attending the workshop. I think it's a really interesting topic. It's great to see so much interest and a really good range of presentations. So I will try and kick off with a bit of enthusiasm and we'll see how we go. I have two presentations. The first one is a little bit more high level about EuroGeographics and what we're doing about product development. And then I was discussing with Julian, I think he's a little bit the filling in the sandwich. He'll do his presentation, and then I'll come back and speak a little bit more detail about what we're doing in European location services. So a little bit about EuroGeographics. Why do we need pan-European authoritative data? What we're doing in the head office team on behalf of our members, and then about a move to making sure that we're considering the user, which hopefully is the theme of the event in the next couple of days. So hopefully everybody does know about EuroGeographics, but we're the membership association. Whoa, I think it's that one. Is that right? Is it working? Yeah. The Membership Association providing a voice for European mapping and cadastral authorities. Am I better without? Can you hear me okay without it? I think it could be a battery issue. Yeah. Okay, I'll try. If it goes again, I'll just switch it. Oh. No. That's fine, this will work. And as a membership association, we do various different things. So we represent our members' interests internationally in Europe and also globally to UN GGIM, we sit as an observer. We run knowledge exchange networks like this one, so bringing people together to exchange and develop knowledge. And one of the things we also do is product development. So a little bit about EuroGeographics. We have 63 members from 46 countries, so we cover all of geographical Europe. And as you can imagine, the work that our members do is critically important, both in their own member states and countries and also on a European level. As a collective, we really deliver quite an impressive amount of work and benefits when it comes to authoritative data and provision of that. But we also do work, as I said, we have 8 expert knowledge exchange groups. This is one of them. And yes, we have a lot of people employed by our members, and we try and bring you together when we can so we can share knowledge and experience. Our vision as an organization, a society empowered by the use of our members' services, and I think that's really important in the context as well of the user approach that we're discussing over the next couple of days. And the facilitation of access to our members' data is one of our core strategic aims, and it's something that EuroGeographics has been doing for a long number of years, and my colleague Angela Baker leads on some of that from our head office team in terms of our existing product stack, and my role is on how we push that a little bit further through product development. So a little bit about what we're doing. Keep an eye on the time. So we have already available a number of data products that we provide based on data from our members. So we have a production process where we take data from official sources from our members across Europe, mapping and cadastral agencies, and we process those to a common specification. We harmonize and we make those available. So we have quite a traditional approach to some of that work. We have a number of services that are on a smaller scale, so down to about 1 to 100,000, and we produce them in that very traditional way, but we know that they're really valued. There's nobody else that's providing that kind of service for Europe based on authoritative data. You can have a look at some of the services that we've got available on our website. There's a little bit more information. But at the highest level, we have a range of existing products, Euro regional map, boundary map providing the official authoritative boundaries from our members for Europe, Euro global map, which is an open data product, and a digital elevation model as well. So these are all well received. We have a good customer base for these, but as I said, they really go down to a kind of regional level of detail in terms of scale. We have a couple of other products and services in development, and some of these are referenced in the next 2 days of presentations. So I know that Sonia is going to discuss tomorrow about our core reference data project. So that is about, am I back? Yes. So I don't have to speak so loud. The core reference data project, so it's some prototype work that I know that Sonia will discuss tomorrow. So that's bringing our production down to the next level of detail. And what I'm going to cover is about our European Location Services Programme. I'll do that in the next presentation. And that's probably the closest to making the Inspire data and specifications available. So really starting to look at how we can bring the Inspire services together to make that available to the user. I thought it was worth pointing out, I mean, I think as it was referenced at the start, that there's a lot of interest in national services, but where's the interest in the pan-European context? And I found this public opinion barometer that had been done by the European Commission. I love public opinion surveys, it can be very amusing, but I thought this was quite interesting. It's about asking citizens in Europe, what do you think are the 2 most important issues that face the EU? So it's quite an interesting survey actually. There's also some national questions. It's worth having a look. But this was a snapshot in 2017. And actually when you look at it, how many of these issues are geographical in nature? How many of them need our data to help move this forward? So for example, security. How do we secure across borders? It's not just a national issue. Economics, the economic situation, finances. How do we enable a digital economy? Well, a digital economy needs free flow of data, and that's not just restricted to the boundaries of member states. Crime, obviously, doesn't stop on boundaries. Neither does climate change, the environment, etc. So there's certainly a lot of pan-European problems and global problems where geospatial data has the opportunity to make some difference. It's interesting that we're perhaps not seeing as many use cases as we would expect, and I think that'll be interesting to explore in the next days of the workshop. So we have some case studies from our existing products that I'll touch on. Angela's not been able to make the workshop. She manages this work. If you've got questions, I can refer back to her. But we see definitely an interest in the regional planning perspective on access to data. We've got an example here from the Alpine Convention. So, yes, cross-border regional planning on a natural and cultural diversity perspective and scale. And they're using Euroboundary Map to help with indicators about regional development. So quite a nice case study in terms of regional development. Of course, we see this around other natural features as well. For example, river basin catchments, those planning issues that go across countries. So we definitely have some interest from those. EuroSDR, I probably shouldn't go into too much detail because I know that Julian is going to present, but one of our key users of our products to distribute across the EU and providing their internal customers with access to our data and added value products, such as the nuts-based statistics is one of the case studies that we've got available. But I won't go into too much detail because Julian's going to pick up on that a little bit about what happens in Eurostat. And also commercial users, so Navtech in terms of their digital road data, you'll be quite familiar with, I think, the huge rise in the need for navigation systems and data there. They're taking, vast amounts of data. You're not just talking about the road network, but all of the points of interest, all of the contextual information around that. And we're providing them with those official administrative boundaries to be able to enable the context in their application. And EEA, and I know again Henrik is speaking tomorrow, but again, use of that definitive base map and boundary mapping to use in a number of applications. One that we've taken here as an example is the Korean land cover data set, and again, very high impact on the protection of ecosystems and environmental factors. These are just a handful of some of the existing applications that we're enabling through our smaller scale of data. So you can imagine, as we start to increase the scale of data, the number of applications will grow, we hope. So I'm just going to bring this in a little bit, but I cover it more in the second presentation. But I think one of the observations is, as a technical community, sometimes we get very excited about building and technical delivery, and then we wait for the users to come to us. And I think that's one of my observations when I came in to take this role on. I don't know do you know the film Field of Dreams? He decides he's going to build this massive baseball stadium in the middle of nowhere because he's told that if he does that, then everybody will come. I think we need to be a little bit careful. It's great to do what we can with the data that we have available and build these amazing systems, but if they're not tied down to actually the use cases and what the user wants, it could be a lot of wasted effort. So in the European Location Services project that I'll talk more about in the next presentation, we've really taken an approach of putting the user at the center. So starting off with what is it that the user is looking for, and then building out from there. And we have undertaken a number of exercises from interviews to analysing some of the feedback that we're receiving, developing user stories, so what is it that the user is trying to do, feeding those back. So we've got quite a bit of a process before we start developing and prioritising what we're doing. And that's been incredibly helpful. So although we're starting off with content that's coming from Inspire, we're thinking a little bit more about the use cases before we get into exactly what we were going to develop. I'm going to talk a little bit more in the second presentation about what we've learned from that and the feedback that we've been receiving from the user. But I guess just to bring together on the kind of introduction from EuroGeographics perspective on the users, we know that it's incredibly important to our users that they're using data that can be trusted. There's a lot of sources of geospatial data, but we know that the authoritative position that's provided by governments and by agencies is still incredibly important, particularly for some of the use cases we were talking about around security, around the economy, around the environment. So what actually is the definitive position that's provided by government? But beyond that, the data needs to be easy to access, because otherwise people will find an alternative to doing that. And when I talk about access, that's both the where you can access it from, and that's one of the reasons that EuroGeographics provides that central point of access, because it's quite a painful exercise to go and speak to a lot of member states and pull that together yourself. Also about the terms of use, so I'll talk a little bit later about open data. Open's important, but actually just an understanding of what you can do with that data once you receive it is incredibly important. And data that's well described, so do you understand the data that you're using? Users want to be able to understand what they're accessing.
Quality is very important, but so is maintenance and being up to date. Harmonization across all levels, so whether it's features that meet on boundaries, having the same kind of content in different countries, and again on the terms of use so that you can flow across Europe. And of course, sufficient level of detail, and that's what we're working on in the development of more detailed services. So I'm gonna wrap up because I'm getting a flash that I've only got a couple of minutes, and I'm gonna talk a little bit more about designing with the user at the center in the next presentation. But hopefully that's provided a high-level overview of what we're doing at EuroGeographics and some of the issues that we're trying to address with our users. I was going to say I'm happy to take questions maybe at the end of the second presentation because it might make more sense. Is that okay? Yeah.
Okay. So, for this first presentation. So keep in mind your question for